this episode, we're headed back to Wayne, Pennsylvania. But this time, I'm sitting down for a conversation with Matt Geyer, owner of the Beer Yard. From his shop tucked behind a Starbucks, he's been selling the best beer available to the thirsty folks on Philly's main line for almost a quarter of a century. He's become a staple in the local beer community, and you can always see him out and about, or at least hear him. Welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic. Hi, I'm Kevin Brooks, and this is No Pants During the Pandemic. Today I'm speaking with an old friend, Matt Geyer, owner of the Beer Yard in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Hey Matt, how you doing today?
Doing well, Kevin. You?
I'm doing just fine.
Well, that's good. Nice to be out in the sunny Wayne, PA today.
I hear you. Why don't you start by telling me who you are and what you do?
My name's Matt Geyer, and I sell beer. A lot of beer. Owner of the Beer Yard since I've been there since August of '97.
For those watching who aren't from the Philly area, what's the Beer Yard?
The Beer Yard is primarily a retail establishment. We're located 10 miles west of Philadelphia. We sell a little bit of everything. We sell our Bud, Coors, Miller, and all that, but we do a lot of high-end specialty beer. Of course, all the rage is New England IPA, but we still do a lot of the classic Belgian styles, which is one of my passions. We also do some wholesale to certain bars, such as like Teresa's and other places. When I got involved with it 23 years ago, it was actually one of the younger stores around. Most stores had been around since Prohibition. And the gentleman I bought it from, we talked about it, and he just encouraged me to be like, hey, you gotta be a little different. If you're gonna sit here and sell Bud, Coors, Miller, you're probably not gonna survive. So I just started really getting into the specialty beers at that point.
And how did you find those specialty beers?
I was very fortunate to have people like Eddie Friedland help me out, Nima from Shangy's, and a lot of the new beers I discovered were from customers. My first Rochefort 10 was from a customer coming in and asking to find this case, and he's been looking for it. And I was like, oh my God, this thing's gonna be like $180 a case. I'm like, are you sure you want this? And he's like, yeah. And he gave me a bottle, and I tried it, and I was like, oh my God, where has this beer been?
You had a lot to learn.
When I first bought the store over, I pretty well work up and close 6 days a week. Sundays I went in for a couple hours in the morning just to clean up some stuff. So I popped the train down to Monk's almost every Sunday. And literally I just sat in the back room for a few hours and tried different beers. That was my MBA in beer, was Monk's. Great staff. Some of them are still there. Very fortunate in Philly to have Monk's here.
Was the store called the Beer Yard then?
It's called the Beverage Store. I changed the name from the Beverage Store to the Beer Yard because you'd say the Beverage Store in Wayne, and people would say Wayne Beverage. No, Wayne Beverage is a half mile up down the road. I think Wayne Beverage has been here since Prohibition. It was owned by the Dominics, great family. But since they sold, it's been through 5, 6, 7 different owners. So we changed the name to the Beer Yard.
And why did you buy it?
I'd been a customer there for a couple of years. The guys were great with customer service. It was this gentleman Buzz and his best friend Bob, they bought it as a retirement thing, just to keep out of the house. They worked for Martin Marietta for 35 years. They just wanted something to do, a challenge, just something different. And I'd become a customer, and I sort of heard through the grapevine that they were selling. So I just sort of off the cuff to them said, I was like, this is something I think I'd like to do. I wish I could do it, but I quit my job 6 months ago. I have no money. Buzz, great man. He literally was just like, tell you what, come be my manager, run it, see if you like it. And if it works out in 3-4 months, we'll figure it out.
That's amazing.
He had a lot of faith in me. And he's just like, I've been wanting to sell it for a while, but I just wanted to have somebody that actually had some passion about it.
So how did you go about setting yourself apart from other stores?
I made a lot of friends out of the place. You know, a lot of his original customers became my customers. You know, that's how I started really getting into it. Is like people would ask for things, and you know, it's 20 some years ago. You know, you called around to a beer distributor, and if you weren't asking for a Bud Coors Miller, they were just like, I can't find it. And I would just, you know, it'd just be like, we weren't that busy back then. So I'd literally just be on the phone being like, first call would be Eddie Friedland. Nope, he doesn't have it. Then I'd call over to Shangy's, I'd call over to Kunda, I'd just call around until I found it. You know, then I'd just call people back. It'd be like, oh, hey, I found this for you. They'd be like, oh my God, I've been looking for this for 6 months. How did you find it? And this is like pre-internet. So you're not doing a Google search and boom, it's up. It didn't take that much legwork. It took 2, 3, 5 phone calls maybe. And that was just sort of like, oh, wow. And then it just like business was like, boom.
The business has changed drastically over the last 5 years, much less the last 25 years. What do you think about those changes and I guess the industry's turn to hyperlocal?
It's been interesting. People are willing to experiment much more now. I do get a little disappointed that they don't always respect the classics. You know, there's, you know, the great Pilsners, the great Kolsch's, the great triples. You know, I love a good IPA, believe me. It's probably one of my favorite styles. It's probably one of the things I drink 90% of the time. But, what was the question? No, it's just, it's interesting. It's a very, you know, as every business is, it's a very fluid business. You know, people looking for the next greatest, newest thing. It's become a challenging business with so many small locals out there. But we've been very fortunate. We have a great group of customers, you know, that we pull from, like, you know, Delaware, South Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, some Maryland customers, et cetera. And even I get, you know, not as much right now with everything going on, but, you know, we were pulling quite a few customers from New York City. They'd come down, they're visiting friends, they'll drop $600,000, $800,000. You know, because they're finding things they can't find other places. And again, we've always been, I think, very aware of all the little breweries and all the smaller brands, but we still do sell a lot of Bud Coors Miller. I mean, Yuengling, and now White Claw. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts about hard seltzers?
I mean, for us, because the way the Pennsylvania system's set up, seltzer is awesome for a beer distributor because it's a malt-based product, so we get to sell it. And if you gave me 100 people that are buying seltzer, 30 to 40 are coming from liquor, 30 or 40 are coming from wine, 20 are coming from Bud Coors Miller, and maybe 10 are coming from craft. So overall for us, it's bringing people in new to the store, it's upgrading certain customers, and it's stealing a little bit from craft, but not that much, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't think most of them are beer drinkers, but it does get them in your store.
So it's just, you know, we can get them in the store. Again, pre-COVID, you know, we can get them a sample of something else and be like, oh, wow, I actually like that. That's been one of the things, you know, we had done, you know, we did a lot of sampling. So that was always fun to see people to be like, oh, I don't like beer, I'm just here getting it for my husband, or I'm getting it for my girlfriend, etc. But to give them a taste of something, to be like, oh wait, I actually do like this. You know, if somebody's looking for something like a little sweet, yeah, a Lindemans Framboise, perfect. Yeah, many Belgian triples, perfect. When somebody says they don't like beer, that's just, to me, that's no.
When somebody says that to me, it's a challenge.
It's one of those things. It's when you're saying you don't like beer, that's just you haven't had the right beer.
I think most really mean they hate the likes of Coors and Bud. But there's so many different styles out there and taste profiles. There's bound to be something that the person likes.
And that's one of the things that I wish people would realize about some of the beers is just like the English beers, you know, the Belgian beers, even some of the French beers, German beers is the balance, the softness. You know, it's just a beautiful beer. You know, not everything's got to be like punch you in the head. Here's 87 different flavors.
I'm optimistic because I've been seeing a resurgence in some of the better German lagers. That's probably due to the slow pill pours phenomena.
Which is great. Yeah, I experienced that at Suarez. Up in March, I went up there, and which is, if you're ever up in there, Suarez Family Brewers is incredible. And yeah, Human Robot does that. Actually, the first place I ever experienced that was Sly Fox, Phoenixville. They do a slow pour pills.
Now, overall, why don't you think people are getting back to some of these older styles?
A lot of people that have been in it for a while have had it and they just sort of forget about it. There's another group of people that are new to it and it's not special enough because you see it around, I guess. Honestly, I didn't appreciate a Kolsch until I went to Germany. You know, and you sit in Cologne, and you have some Kolsches and the culture, and then that sort of like drives it in. You know, it's to experience that. It's not like what was canned yesterday, and there's only 4 cases available. You know, and again, not complaining about about any of it, but it's just, I'm starting to see a little bit of it as people are starting to rediscover the classics. They're starting to finally be like, oh wait, a Pilsner, a Hefeweizen can be a 4.0 beer. Even though it's only rated at 3.2, because it's not 8% or laden with fruit and lactose or something, and rare. You know, for me, it's fine. I mean, like, you know, I'm gonna sell you beer. And I'm gonna ask you what you want and try to sell you what you want. But a little bit of me, being a purist, does get a little upset when somebody's just like, you know, oh, here's this Pilsner, it's awesome. It's perfect for summer. And they look up, oh, it's a 3.6. I'm like, it's a Pilsner. Pilsners don't get much more than that. Sorry. It's a really good freaking beer. And you convince them to buy it, they get a 6-pack, they come back a week later and get another 6-pack. They're like, yeah, that was like perfect. I can just have it and sip on it and enjoy it.
I love most classic styles, but with lagers, it really took me spending 10 days in Germany, drinking everywhere for the light to finally go on in my head and be like, this stuff is amazing.
A lot of people, they're familiar with the German Pilsner, they may be looking like a Bitburger, Dinkelhacker that are really inexpensive 16-ounce cans, and they're fine beers. You know, not trying to put them down. Very nice beers. But, you know, you taste like a Weihenstephan 1516 Keller. You taste a Jever. You taste a Rothaus. I mean, it's like giddy up. But it's also, other part of that is we're very fortunate to be in this area, you know, where we have a Sly Fox, we have a Victory, we have a 2SP, we have a Trogs. They're making some of the best pilsners in the country.
Even some of our less traditional local brewers are doing stuff like that. You go to Tired Hands, and there's likely to be one on.
Oh, they nail it. They nail it. You know, Colin down there, one of the best brewers around. Absolutely nail it.
I don't get there often, but I've been really jonesing to go lately.
I don't get there as much as I used to. When I do, I definitely go to the original, the cafe. You know, it's just a little more relaxed, a little more chill.
A bunch of the brewers I've been speaking with have been telling me that their more sessionable beers are the ones that are selling right now. Beers like the one you're drinking.
But this is a beer I've been looking for years, and I finally stumbled across it, Rothaus Pils. It's like perfect, especially for the summertime. It's nice, clean, very floral.
Were you looking for that specific beer or one like it?
No, I didn't know the beer. I never had it, but it's. I had a couple sales reps who did sales calls in New York, and apparently, like, it was all over New York, and people were loving it up there. And they're like, "You can't get this," and I'm like, and I finally just stumbled across it on one of my wholesalers' websites, and I was like, "You have this? Can I get it?" And it's actually starting to get pretty big here.
What would you say to somebody who only drinks hazy IPAs to get them to try some classic styles?
I honestly have no idea. Wow. You know, yeah, I'd probably do, you know, honestly, I'd probably say like a Westmalle Triple. You know, it's strong, it's a little sweet, you know, it's absolutely delicious. I mean, that's probably one of my 3 like desert island beers. Perfect beer, and you can pretty well find that anywhere. Other beers I might suggest, like what I was drinking earlier, Dahare, that, you know, we're one of the few places that get it outside of Belgium. But, you know, Westmalle Triple is pretty well you can get anywhere. And it's just, it's honestly one of the most perfect beers ever, I think.
I agree, Westmalle Triple is pretty much perfect. Dahare is a little too sweet for me, though.
Yeah, Dahare's a little sweeter. But for me, there's just so many great memories of Dahare. So, you know, it's, I just get chills with that beer.
I guess that brings me to travel. You've gone all around the world, and a lot of times you're doing it for beer. So what have been some of your standout places?
Oh my God. Standouts, I mean, it's first time to Germany, being at Oktoberfest with one of my best friends, Shannon. Many of the trips to Belgium, because I've become good friends with Carl from De Hare and his wife Margot, just them taking me out and about and doing things. The global trip I was on, bouncing around to the different little breweries, and it was neat because you visited the brewery, then you did something cultural. At the Silly Brewery, we're doing archery. We got to see this tractor museum. I did the Ale Street News Belgium trip, one of my second or third time to Belgium, and that was just fascinating to see. Because we got back into the country, a lot of places I normally wouldn't go.
Did any place surprise you?
Andy and Chris had to convince me to go to Scotland. And you know what? It was one of the best trips I've ever had. The people are nice. The food's actually good, which I was not expecting. And you're gonna get 3 to 4 seasons every day, which is awesome. You never get bored over there. But I would go back to that place in a second.
Me too. So what have you learned in all your travels?
Beer is such a communicator with people. I didn't drink beer at all until I was like early 20s. At the time, I was like working for a art gallery, so I traveled around the country. And I just sort of came to find out, like if I went to the dance club, the Irish club, or the sports club, as a person, single person, you were like axe murderer. You went to the brew pub, the brewery, and everyone's like, oh, you're here for a week? Come back tomorrow night, we'll show you around. And that was the neat thing about it, is like I was never really a beer drinker before then. Because number one, my buddies were just throwing back Keystone Light and whatever. And nothing against it, but it wasn't my thing. I still remember like McGlinchey's having a Shiner Bock there, being like, wow. Then I went to the beer store that I ended up buying, and he got me a case of Shiner Bock. And I was like, yeah. I remember being at a Rock Bottom brewery in Minnesota and just discovering like, oh wow, there's other things than like a light lager, an IPA and a porter and stuff. Then I came back and talked to the guy and ordered a few things. That's one of the things I still think holds true to this day, is if you go to like a brew pub, a good beer bar, people are generally very friendly. They're just generally very chill. And I've even seen that pre-COVID, after COVID. I've gone to a few spots, generally outside, and I'm not going to busy places, but people are just friendly. I mean, it's, you go to Hidden River, it's like family. You come here, you see Andy, Chris, and Kate. It's like family. They remember you. They remember what you drink. I always felt like anybody can afford a good beer. You come to a place and at this point, a good beer is maybe $6, $7, $8, $9, $10. You can have one, sit there, enjoy, and talk to somebody. You're not gonna be able to do that with like a scotch or a whiskey. Like the good stuff's $30, $40 a pour. A nice glass of wine's $20, $30 a pour. One of the things I love about beer is a great equalizer. Pretty well anybody can afford like a nice beer. You don't have to go crazy. I mean, it's, we have 4-packs for $24 a 4-pack. But we have 6-packs of nice beer for $10, $11. 4-packs of nice beers for $12. You don't have to be on the latest and greatest. Not to keep going back to Westmall, but you get a bottle of Westmall for a very reasonable price. A bottle of Rochefort 10. Yeah, it's a little pricey, but it's a freaking meal. You sit there and sip on it. Just enjoy.
How do you keep your customers engaged?
I have definitely noticed, Instagram, Facebook, I got to be on that. Instagram is like 45 and under crowd. The Facebook is 45 and over crowd. It's interesting in that respect.
TikTok?
If I could figure out how to use it, put like little ears on me and sell a beer, maybe,
When things came to a head in mid-March and everything started shutting down, what did the beer yard do?
Some of the Montgomery County places were starting to shut down, and like the county was telling them to shut down. And apparently a cooler head or somebody thinking about it realized if they shut, it's like I have 600 to 800 people a week come through that place. If they shut us down, that's that many more people in a grocery store. So they left us open. We curtailed our hours because I have 2 guys that work for me that have parents that live in the house, and I pretty well gave them the option of you can go on unemployment, you don't have to risk. At that point, none of us knew anything really what was going on. So I just told those guys, do what you got to do. I'm not expecting you to come in. A couple of the other guys that work for me, I asked them, I said, if you want to stay on, you can stay on. If you don't, you don't. You know, I'll work it by myself if I need to. You know, and if the state tells us to shut down, we shut down. Once we get all through this, hopefully we all get through this, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's because it's been devastating to the industry. I'm actually surprised how many of the smaller breweries are still keep going. I thought it'd be much more of a bloodbath.
Small locals or small national brands?
Both.
Deliveries and direct sales have really helped those local breweries keep the beer flowing. For small breweries that don't have a local presence, a lot of times they're in trouble.
Well, not only that is like, all right, you're selling some of your beer, then all of a sudden you can't get cans right now. I haven't had Coors Light 30 packs in 4 weeks. You know, I tried to do my order today. There's no Coors Light bottles. There's no Coors Light cans. There's no Corona bottles. There's no Corona Light bottles. It's weird. I think Miller Lite bottles ran out last week. Right now, if you're a customer, you just got to be flexible. Even if you have your favorite domestic beer, just be a little flexible. They don't have a bottle of it, I'll just grab a can. You know, they don't have my 30 pack, I'll grab a 12 pack. You know, it's a very, very tough situation right now. The amazing thing about it is when we went to green is the amount of people that came in 2 waves of like the amount of people that had never been out since their house for 2-3 months. This is my first stop. But the other amount of people that came in and being like, oh, so how'd you guys do with the shutdown? And I'm like, we were open the whole time. I mean, from a business perspective, it was hectic. The retail side was great, but unlike a lot of beer distributors, we do a big chunk of our business on the wholesale side. So our country clubs, our bars that we deal with are all shut down or in limp mode of like just doing some takeout. So, I mean, overall, it's been overall, it's been a negative effect on our business, but you know, I'm better off than most of my other friends that have retail businesses. You know, I've got people that have, you know, picture frame, you know, they have, framing businesses. You know, I have people that work in gyms, and they've been shut down for months. So the fact that we were able to tread water, make a little bit of money, I'm fine with. You know, I'm much better off than most. You talk to the restaurants, you know, you're starting to see it now. Like, there's some places that are just, we're done. The places that are open, I haven't talked to all of them, but they're barely making money, breaking even, or losing a little bit, but they're just trying to keep it going. It's a marathon right now. And, you know, we'll see.
Yeah. So what were people buying from you during the shutdown?
With the whole COVID thing, we have noticed, I'm sure it's industry-wide too, is we've seen a big bump in the classics. Like, you know, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, Deschutes Fresh Squeeze, Dogfish 60, Lagunitas IPA, Bud Light 30 packs, Coors Light 30 packs. People were just buying up things they knew. Now that's starting to settle out a little bit, they're willing to experiment again.
I guess it was a comfort factor because things were scary.
I mean, it was, you know, scary for all of us. It was, you know, it still is, I think.
How are things in the store now?
Yeah, it's getting back to a little sense of normalcy. You know, the first couple of months, it was a lot of curbside delivery. Now, most people are comfortable with coming in and spending a little time in the store. There's a point if, like, there's a couple people in the store where, like, we ask people to wait. Everyone's patient. Everyone, for the most, I'm talking like 99.9% of the time, has been very patient about, like, sorry, we're out of this. We're out of this. We're out of this. Like, literally, I can't get like major packages from my big distributors right now. It's absolutely insane. You know, but people, it's been really good. Oh, you don't have this? I'll just take this. What else would you suggest? You know, it just, you know, it is what it is right now. You gotta be patient with it. I mean, you go to the restaurant. They're out of something. You roll with it, get something else. It takes 10 minutes longer than you expected. You roll with it. That's been the most interesting thing is that I think with this whole situation that's happened, for lack of a better term, is like it's taught people a lot of patience and understanding. You know, there's been a little bit of like weirdness here and there, but overall, it's just sort of like, you know what? If the worst thing in my life is I don't get the actual beer that I was looking for today, but I got something just as good, hey, it's a win.
I agree with you. Most people have been really patient. But of course, it makes those few assholes stand out now.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I can count on one hand, and I actually have 5 fingers on both hands. I can count on one hand how many times over 23 years there's been like somebody with a complete breakdown or complete bit, and 3 out of the 4 times they called back later and apologized.
Good. Is there anything you want to add?
Be understanding right now. Be the good person. Support your local small business. I mean, it's just, if you want to see them survive, you got to spend the money there. And if you're gonna, and especially if you're gonna do a small independent restaurant, go there direct and pick up. Do not do the delivery apps because they are raping those small businesses. They are taking such a big percentage. And most of those delivery apps have never been good for a restaurant anyways, because they take such a big percentage, and the restaurants are such a tight, a tight margin. But this in particular, it's been terrible. Go support them. Support your small business. Tip heavy. I think it's the service people are struggling.
Absolutely. Matt, looks like the sun's starting to go down because your shot's getting dark, so why don't we wrap things here? Thanks for spending all this time with me this afternoon, and I'll see you soon.
I hope so, Kevin. I hope so.
Bye, Matt. If you'd like to learn more about the Beer Yard, you can check out their webpage, or better yet, follow them on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.